All right, so we've got one sweep out of the way, and here comes another one. And there's shocking results for different reasons. So for Tampa, the shock of their sweep is no President's Trophy winner had ever been swept in the first round. That's historic. In this one, the Islanders have swept teams in the past. This is not a President's Trophy winner, and the Pittsburgh Penguins didn't commit to the playoffs. Scary for any reason other than they're the Penguins. So you kind of expect that comeback. And tonight, it just wasn't happening. And the funny thing is, for the second game in a row, they got the first goal. But the Islanders, they don't waver. And that 1983 team was the last team that got a sweep, right? So this was when they were the big bad Islanders with 4 Stanley Cups in a row. They ended up destroying the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final in 83 before the Oilers kind of returned the favor in 84. And this team is the best they've looked since then. And the interesting thing is that 83 team was replete with so much Hall of Fame talent. And it was a scary, big, tough team that could score and had great goaltending and fantastic defense. This Islanders team, this is a commitment from player 1 through player 20 on this roster to play a certain way. And the goaltending is absolutely fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about Robin Lehner. And can we discuss at some point, and I need to do a video on it at some point, the redemption of Robin Lehner. There is no greater comeback story in the NHL. He was let go by Buffalo last year, that the guy was useless, and there are still some Buffalo fans who will try to argue that he's not that great. He's pretty darn good. I remember seeing him in Ottawa, and I remember I was a big fan of Lehner, and then he went to Buffalo, and it just didn't work. And that happens. Some players go to a city, and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. The Islanders, it's worked. Lou Lamoriello looks like a genius right now. First period, Gensel scores from Crosby and McCann. So 1-0 Pittsburgh. There you go. That's how you get that game started. All 3 guys needed to get on the board. They all get off the snide. They all have their first points of the series. And that's it. Eberle scores from Barzal and Mayfield makes it 1-1. This is still relatively early in the game, and then Nelson scores from Bailey and Kuhnhackl. And as soon as that happens, the Pittsburgh crowd gets a little bit quiet on that 2-1 goal. And they would try to fire up Pittsburgh the rest of the night, and Pittsburgh did its best. They outshot the Islanders in the first period 10-7. Both teams had a power play. Neither team scored on said power play. And at the end of the day, that's kind of a surprise that in a game where their backs are against the wall, that Pittsburgh doesn't come up with some power plays and some goals. And that's kind of the way they play. Going into the playoffs, Travis Yost had an article he did not that long ago on how the idea that defense wins in the playoffs is probably outdated. And he talks about how the teams that usually win the playoffs are the ones with the better offense. Well, when you look at Columbus first and now you look at the Islanders here, maybe we're going back to the past in this. Maybe the trapping teams, the ones that play that really solid defense, maybe they're the ones we need to worry about in the playoffs again. Which is weird because we saw more goal scoring in the NHL this year than we've seen since the 90s, right? So second period, it's 2-1, and you get the feeling that the Penguins are trying to push. First, Crosby had a post on the power play. I did put that up there because it felt like it was a key moment. And when you look at the final score, it really was. Frustrating moments all the way through. And unlike with Tampa, you could see that frustration with Pittsburgh. You could see them trying everything they could to make this work, including Hornqvist going into Lehner. Now, at first, it's not intentional, but as soon as Lehner kind of gave him the stick, Hornqvist is like, oh, okay, well, I'm running you now. And he did what Hornqvist does, and it didn't work. The idea is simple. Robin Lehner's a bit of a hothead. Get in on him, make him kind of emotional, and you can knock him out of there and make it so that he'll allow a goal. Not this Robin Lehner. This is a different Robin Lehner than the one that played for Buffalo last year. The shots in that period are 14-10 for Pittsburgh, and again, each team fails to score on the power play. Third period, it's a beautiful period for the New York Islanders. And that Pittsburgh crowd tried everything. They tried everything they could to get Pittsburgh riled up and get them through. It just wasn't going to happen. The New York Islanders tonight were not going to be denied. They were not going to be denied their first sweep. And for Pittsburgh, where are they at right now? So as Pittsburgh limps their way out of the playoffs, the question becomes, okay, so is it time now to look at making some serious changes with the Pittsburgh roster? What are you going to do? Because getting swept means you can't just say, well, we were close. And it was something they said after the game. They said, this is not a series that Pittsburgh can look back on and say, if we had this shot, maybe we win the series. 4-game sweep doesn't work that way. Bailey adds the empty netter from Filppula, and I got to admit, that was something. I've got to say that, watching my bracket get broke, this was amazing. I didn't anticipate that the Islanders would be that good during the regular season, and now during the postseason they're rewriting the script again. The good news for the Islanders and for Columbus from earlier tonight as well as this, they can now rest. They could potentially have a nice long rest. They're going to watch Washington and Carolina and hope for a 7-game series there. Hope they beat each other up so that they're nice and rested and waiting for them. The shots in that third period were 9 apiece. Both teams failed on the power play. Your star of the series is Robin Lehner. Without Robin Lehner, this series, it's not a 4-0 series. 32 saves on 33 shots. Matt Murray was fine. He was. There's no problem with Matt Murray in this game. He saves 23 out of 25 shots. But at the end of the night, the Penguins just, they can't break through. They can't break through that wall that's Lehner. They couldn't upset him. They couldn't throw the Islanders off. A couple Islanders on the limp after this game. A couple guys got hurt during the game. We'll see tomorrow and moving forward how that's going to affect them and whether or not those players are going to be back for the next series against either Washington or Carolina. And if you're the Islanders, you got to kind of be pulling for Carolina because they need to have home ice in the second round. The shame of it all, of course, is, for those that don't know, it looks like the rest of the home games in the playoffs, second round and further, would be played at Barclays rather than at Nassau. And when you look at that energy in Nassau, you're losing something by going to Barclays. Even though the number of people you get into Barclays is similar, and because they're in the second round of the playoffs, you may get a lot more. It just that feel, that big game feel in Barclays isn't quite there with that SUV down in front. This team all year has played with a chip on its shoulder, and not only that, but they've been coached by a coach who has a chip on his shoulder, and probably felt like when Washington let him go, you guys are going to regret this. And in round 2, if it's Washington against the Islanders, they may regret it right away. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding this insane series. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through these 2019 playoffs. They are rapidly becoming the most unpredictable playoffs that I think I've ever seen. I'm going to have to start going through some old books here and look for more unpredictable playoffs and more upsets. I know in 93, every team that came into the Final Four, they were all third-place teams, including the Islanders. So every team that finished third in their division ended up being in that Final Four. It was a weird year, but this feels weirder. We've got a number 8 seed winning in this round, and I understand the Islanders are a number 2 seed and Pittsburgh was a number 3. This still feels like an upset due to Pittsburgh having that experience and the star power, and Matt Murray with how he'd been in the playoffs in previous years. This definitely feels like an upset. All right, there you go. So thank you guys so much for watching. These playoffs have been great. Now I get to watch Winnipeg against St. Louis, and then we'll have Vegas and San Jose. I'll be doing separate reviews for those as well. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and I'll talk to you again soon.